So, Stephen D here on Pure 24/7 Radio, and I am joined by one of the writers from Pure Media, the magazine. Not only is today's guest one of the writers for the magazine, but he's also one of the presenters for the station. It is none other than Nathan Thomas. Hello.
Hi, good to be with you.
Yes, it is rather odd because we host the Endurance Show together, so it's rather odd to be sort of separated by screens for today.
Yeah, it is, but it's good fun, and it's great to be able to, for the first time, to be interviewed about my column in the magazine.
Yes, I suppose you do a lot more interviewing than you do interviews.
I think that's safe to say.
So this will be fun. Let's start with what it is that you do.
Okay, so I am a presenter on Pure 247 Radio. I host the late lunch every weekday, 12 till 3. I'm also host of the weekend wind down, and as you mentioned earlier, I co-host the Endurance Show on Sundays. I also happen to be the social media manager for Pure 247 Radio, as well as the Pure Media, the magazine. So I kind of manage the websites, the online visual presence, if you will, of both of those sort of pure media branches.
Excellent. So that's what you do. But in addition to that, I mean, on top of all of that you do, you also write in Pure Media, the magazine. Tell us a little about what inspires this column.
Well, what inspires this column is the another thing that I do is photography in my part time. So this article is all about art and photography, and kind of yeah, how do we get some really a beautiful perspective of the world. And so I like to share my photography, share my thoughts on what's going on in the world from a perspective of a kind of an artistic photographic perspective. That's kind of what inspired it.
Excellent. So just for the record, what is the name of the column? I've actually forgotten.
Yeah, the name of the column is The Silver Lining, and actually a lot of the inspiration is in that title. It's seeing the beauty in the world, even though a lot of it time it can seem quite dark, it can seem quite dismal, it can seem like quite depressing or just a bit messy, but it's just looking for the beautiful things in the world, the silver lining, if you will.
Finding the silver lining through the lens of Nathan Thomas. That's
Exactly.
what this column is all about. You should use that actually. So let's talk about this specific one. So this is, I believe, a January edition of Pure Media, the magazine. You've written a brilliant, brilliant article. I have read it myself. It's excellent. And it's all about kind of looking into the new year, but from your perspective behind the lens. So let us know what's inspired this specific column.
Well, this specific column is inspired by the fact that I often find when you come to the new year, it can feel as though there's a lot of pressure to start off strong, to start as you mean to go on. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we can often feel the pressure as almost as though when we enter the new year, we need to enter it as new people with a completely refreshed energy and enthusiasm and vigor. And the reality is, a lot of us enter the new year a bit tired after all the celebrations of Christmas. And of course, we talk about the January blues, which coincides with the new year, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're in the dead of winter. And so this article, the idea was to try and relieve some of that pressure and just to explain, hey, there's nothing wrong with just deciding, you know what, I'm not going to set up any particularly, grand ambitions. I'm just going to enter the new year and continue doing what I was doing, just a little bit better each and every day. It's encouraging people to do that. And as a photographer, to do that in your creative pursuits. So, I haven't necessarily set any massive goals. It's not that I want to achieve this photograph or I want to have shared this many by the end of the year or whatever. It's more just, I'm going to keep on taking great photographs. I'm going to keep on capturing the beauty in the world. And hopefully over this next year, as with last year and the year before, I'm going to hopefully do it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think you give a really good perspective there, keeping things in perspective. There's sort of this the new year. We get very excited. We have fireworks. We have these big expectations, these big plans, and what you're doing is relieving the pressure by providing a good perspective of it's just another day. You've very aptly titled your column "The Next Page," or this particular article rather, "The Next Page." Tell us a little bit about that.
The next page, yeah. Well, in the article, I reference the fact that we often think of the new year as like the next chapter, or even the next book, in a way, and that can feel like a monumental. Like we've got to start off well. If you know anything about writing, you know that the first part needs to be really, really good. But if you just think of it as the next page, well, it's just a continuation of your life, and it's building on all the previous pages and chapters, and you're just carrying on to the next page, which seems like a far less intimidating concept than the next book. or the
Yeah,
next chapter.
yeah, I love that. Turning just the page. You haven't got to turn to the next chapter, next book, or anything like that. It's just another day,
And
just another turning of the page.
also, we can often feel like as we come to the new year, I've often felt this. We need to wrap everything up that you need to finish by the end of 2025, again, so that you can kind of move on to the next chapter. But actually, you don't have to wrap everything up. Our lives are not that arbitrary and formulaic. Actually, there are plenty of things that I was doing in 2025. I'm continuing into 2026. Not much has changed or stopped or started over New Year. It's our lives just aren't that arbitrary. They're a bit more complex than that, which is why I think of it more as the next page than the next chapter.
Excellent. I really appreciate this perspective you provided. So, what would be the one thing you want readers and listeners to take away from this article?
I hope you take away from it the idea that you don't need to put massive amounts of pressure on yourself to start off the new year with an unnatural vigor and enthusiasm, because we are only human after all. And there's nothing wrong with just carrying on doing what you're doing a little bit better than before. I suppose I hope the main thing you'll be able to take away from this article is just an encouragement to continue your creative pursuits without the pressure of the new year, because the new year doesn't need to be a massive pressure. Instead, just think of it as a nice way to refresh, to reflect, to prepare, and hopefully that will just allow you to continue with your creative pursuits, whether you're a photographer, an artist, a writer, a singer, whatever it might be. I mean, radio is another creative pursuit, which I do most days. Whatever your creative pursuit is, hopefully from this article, you will take away a sense of relief. I don't have to do everything perfectly. I don't have to be 10 times better than I was last year. I can just continue growing, developing at the normal, healthy pace for me.
Yeah, I really like that. Thank you so much, Nathan Thomas. This has been rather interesting, you being on the other side of the interviewing
Yeah.
booth.
The
And
interviewer becomes the interviewee.
yes, but interviewed by another interviewer.
Yeah. That's not
Yeah,
confusing at all.
it's not even a little bit. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure chatting about your article, and I look forward to doing it again in the future. Obviously, we'll hear you on the radio as always, and looking forward to seeing actually this article. I haven't mentioned this because your column, a big part of it is the photos that go with it. So
Yeah,
it's very well us talking about it, but to actually see it with your own eyes, we would highly recommend, wouldn't we?
we would indeed. And of course, in the January, I forgot, but actually, I do provide a kind of collage of my 8 top photographs of 2025 in lieu of the idea of looking back, just sort of looking at some of my favorite photographs from the previous year and thinking, how am I going to build on that? Not how am I going to scrap all that and start afresh, but how am I just going to keep building on that? Again, the next page, not the next chapter. It's not like we have to start over again. We can just keep building on what we've already been working on for years. And that's what I also provide in there. Some beautiful photographs, including a collage of my top 8 from 2025.
Yes, so I would highly recommend seeing that. PureMediaTheMagazine.com, PureMediaTheMagazine.com. Thank you so much, Nathan Thomas, for joining us.
No problem. Thank you very much.